Set number 2, FRQ number 3, obviously macro. Micro don't have any FRQs for comparative advantage, so this has to be macro. Easy enough. All right. Sweden and Norway use equal quantity of resources to produce food and capital goods. Equal resources going in, different or changing resources or changing output is obviously an output problem. Draw a correctly labeled graph of the PPC for Sweden. Place food on the horizontal and capital goods on the vertical. Food and capital goods. It doesn't matter if it's straight or curved here. Plot the relevant numerical values on the graph for Sweden. All right, easy enough. Sweden can do 50 food and 100 capital. All right, golden. B, on your graph in part A, indicate the following. A point that represents an efficient level of production, labeled E. So efficient would be on the curve, anywhere on the curve is E. An inefficient level of production is I, so I would be inside the curve. And an unattainable level is U, outside the curve. Easy enough. Assume Sweden moves from producing 20 units of food and 60 units of capital goods to producing 30 units of food and 40 units of capital. What will happen to economic growth in Sweden in the future? So we went from 60 units of capital good to 40 units of capital goods. What we know is that capital goods is one of the things that shifts out our PPC. If we're going to be making less capital goods, we would assume that over time our economic growth, I spelled that wrong, don't worry about it. Economic growth would decrease. We could also say that our PPC would shift in. We could say our long run aggregate supply curve shifts to the left. We could also say long run growth decreases. We could also say potential real GDP decreases, GDP. So all of these are really the same thing. They're all talking about long run or economic growth. Less capital goods means our PPC shifts in, our long run aggregate supply curve would shift to the left, etc. Get used to these problems and how they ask. There's a whole bunch of these, and they ask with all of these different ways of saying really the same thing. What's happening to growth? Which country has the comparative advantage in the production of capital goods? So we have to do a little math here, knowing it's an output problem. The way we think about it is the math is going to be over. We'll do the numbers over. So this is 100. This will be 50. 50 goes over the 100. 100 over the 50. 120 over the 30. 30 over the 120. So 100 into 50, 0.5. 120 into 30, I think is 0.25. 50 into 100 is 2. 30 into 120 is 4. So clearly we want to look in the columns and find who has the lowest opportunity cost. Norway should do capital goods. Sweden should do food. All right, there's a quicker way to do this too. Let's do the quick way. Let's do another graph up here. This could be, or table. This could be Sweden and Norway. It looks like we got 50 and 100. 30 and 120. So 30 times 100, we can cross multiply here. Gives us 3,000. 50 times 100 is 5,000. 50 times 20. 50 times 10 would be 500. 6,000, is that, am I right? Anyway, I can see clearly that this is the bigger number. If it's an output problem and we do that quick multiplying method like up here, we're looking for the bigger number, right? So the bigger number would get us, we know that Norway, this is our larger number, so these two guys should have the competitive or comparative advantage. Just like what we did over here, we can see they match up, so we should be golden for that. And we would explain just in that capital goods that Norway has a lower opportunity cost than Sweden. Therefore, it has a comparative advantage in capital goods. All right, E, based on the table above, identify a specific number of units of capital goods that could be traded for 10 units of food and be mutually exclusive. So let's do Sweden first here. It looks like for every one food, Sweden gives up 2 capital goods. So for one food, Sweden would give up 2 capital goods. Let's multiply. We're looking for 10 units of food, so 10 units of food would equal 2 times 10 is 20 capital goods. If we're looking for Norway, Norway looks like for one food they give up 4. For one food, Norway gives up 4 capital goods. Getting a little sloppy here. But obviously, if it's 10 food, that would be 40 capital goods. So understand that they would mutually be benefit from trading anywhere in between 20 and 40 capital goods. That's what they're asking for, is the number of capital goods that they would both be willing to trade for. It is between these two numbers, right? For 10 food, and it looks like, look at this, Sweden produces food, right? So Sweden would have to get more capital goods for 10 food. At 20 food, 20 capital, it can produce it itself at 20. So it would have to get more than 20 to be happy. Obviously, Norway doesn't produce food, but for 10 food, it could produce 20 capital goods. If it could get 10 food for less than 40, it would be happy and be willing to trade. So it's just somewhere in between there. Would be perfectly fine. And we could have just said 30. That would have been okay. All right, guys, be safe. Take care.